Hello, good morning. My name is Silviu Ciocoiu, and I would like to welcome you all on this lovely spring day to today's first talk. I appreciate the opportunity to be here in front of you and to be able to talk to you about how robots are planning to take over the world. Well, hey, sorry about that. This guy was supposed to be here. Okay, no, we're not going to talk about physical robots. Even though everybody thinks about that when we tell them we're working in the robotics department. We are though going to talk about robotic process automation, or RPA for short. A few words about me. I'm an RPA enthusiast, an RPA developer that believes in the potential of automation to improve people's lives. And I also think that RPA is a great tool that will enhance automation. It will bring it to the corporate environment and will make people's lives even better. I've been doing process automation for a while now. I've used so many solutions across these years, and it has been a wild ride. Technology has been evolving in this sector like crazy. I love technology in general. I spend hours and hours looking at different tech news hubs, reading on the next best thing in tech, and I love Excel. I know this might be strange for you, but it's probably the Stockholm Syndrome speaking. I've been using it for too long, but I do love it. You can build some really cool things with it. And I don't like pictures, as you can see from this slide and the horrible picture on the Vox website. Okay, let's get back to RPA. I'm going to try to show you a video today. Let's hope it works. It has a pretty big, it's a great starting point. It lists what RPA is, and it helps us avoid what RPA is not. So let's take a look at the video.
Robotic Process Automation, RPA, the next productivity revolution. Don't get left behind. Robotic Process Automation has the potential to dramatically improve customer experience by reducing errors, extending service hours, speeding up processing, and enabling employees to focus on customers with trickier issues that genuinely require human intervention. The reality versus the science fiction. RPA is not a humanoid robot, is not something that can entirely replace humans, is not purely just another cost play, is not something that replicates human cognitive functions, yet. RPA is configurations that automate manual, repeatable tasks. RPA is algorithms that solve specific problems. RPA is software robots that plug into and access existing business software. RPA is workflow-enabled interaction. Being relatively simple to implement, RPA can deliver benefits quickly and deliver a return on investment of over 300%.
I love that it mentions relatively simple to implement. We'll take a look at that later on. Who in the room has heard about RPA? Okay, that's quite a few. We're going to take a deeper look today, so you're probably going to find some other useful information as well. Okay, perfect. So process automation is not something new. It's had been around for a while. But I believe right now we are in the middle of the perfect storm that's going to bring automation to a whole new level. Processes have been growing at the organizational level, as well as the number of applications, and now we have the tools with which to bring all of this together. The digital workforce. The digital workforce is the means with which RPA is going to help us, is going to help empower individuals to become more creative, to focus on the fun aspects of their job, and not do manual, simple, repetitive tasks all day. RPA can automate almost all applications in a corporate environment and beyond. If it's rule-based, it's repetitive, you can do it on the UI or not. Chances are you can automate it using RPA. The market has been growing rapidly. In 2016, it was $250 million. Right now, it's expected to reach 1.5 billion, and it's also expected to grow very rapidly. Many believe we are in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution. And like revolutions that preceded it, it's going to help grow income levels globally, and it's going to improve the quality of life for many people. And I think RPA plays a very big part in that. So these are today's main talking points. We're gonna look at where did RPA come from? What is the digital workforce? How does it work? Where is it being implemented? And what is its utmost potential? Okay, so RPA is a revolution and an evolution. It all started in the 60s with scripting. Then in the 80s and 90s, business process modeling, high-level programming languages came along, and it all kind of came together. And in 2003, the first players on the market came through. Blue Prism and Automation Anywhere were the first ones to start RPA, practically invented it. And then in 2005, UiPath was assembled. As you might know, UiPath is a Romanian startup. And they've done some really cool things. In terms of financing, they managed to get, in 2017, around $30 million in financing, and just this month, another $153 million. And also reaching a market valuation of more than $1 billion. So that's really cool. WorkFusion is another tool worth mentioning in the space. They were one of the first to try to integrate AI and machine learning into RPA, as well as providing a service, software as a service platform for RPA. Okay. John Cryan, Deutsche Bank CEO, also mentions that automation is a great tool to empower individuals. We shouldn't be moving papers around, we shouldn't be crunching numbers, we should be focusing on the attractive and fun aspects of our jobs. And right now, we have the tools to do that. We just need a bit more revolutionary spirit. Okay, of course, digitization has other advantages. Robots are available 24/7. They cost a lot less to implement and run than traditional back-end integrations. Of course, there's no human error involved. And they can do things faster. Okay, so I think this is the main question for everybody today. How does it work? I'm going to open up Blue Prism. I'm going to take you through one of our latest automation projects. And you can see it work. And we will also perform a, let's say, automation live with you. I'm going to start to replicate one of the actions that are integrated in that particular process. Okay, so this is Blue Prism. It's structured into processes and objects. Processes just provide the high-level logic that integrate all of the actions incorporated in the objects. So objects talk to applications, processes tie everything together. Okay, so we have this workflow that's supposed to help us populate some data into a SharePoint site and also get some data from another source. So I'm going to run this. And at the end, it's going to send an email to my boss here. So let's hope it works. So it's opening the SharePoint site. Now it's going to open the other source. Searching for the person. And then it's inputting the data into the SharePoint. It does that just like a normal human would on the interface. And once everything is filled in, it's going to print it as a PDF, and it's going to send it to the person who requested this form. And it knows how to handle errors. It's going to close that. It's going to see it and close it. Perfect. It sent the email, workflow complete. Now it's getting ready to move on to the next item and continue processing. Awesome. So I'm going to move on to the next step. Whoops. It really wants to work. Okay. So I'm going to open an object. So as you can see, this is like a drill down into the actual process. These are the actions that are mapped for a particular application. You have one object per application in which you map all of your, let's say, interactions with that particular application. And then you can just call them. You can just select the application, select the action you want to perform, and that's it. It's basically a puzzle. Okay, so we're going to create a new action. I'm going to call it getInfo. And the first step we need to do is start a new Internet Explorer browser. Okay. So we need to launch the browser. I need to get the path. Just a second. Whoops. Okay. So it needs to know where Internet Explorer is. Okay. Now we need to navigate to the correct URL. Again, we need URL. And of course, we need to wait to make sure that once Internet Explorer has been launched, it finished loading. So we need to check if the document has loading. Has loaded. We have a timeout in seconds. So if nothing happens in 5 seconds, that it knows to throw an error. Hey, something is wrong. Somebody go and check it. And of course, once we navigate to the website, we need to do the same thing. Okay, so once we got to the website, let's see if we can get there. Okay, so it's waiting for the website to load. Now it's going to navigate to the link. Perfect. Okay. Wait, sorry. Okay, so now we need to spy elements. This is how it works. You spy a particular application element using the application modeler, and then you can integrate it into your workflow. Click Identify, and then it sees all of the elements on that particular page. Control-click it, and it lists all of its attributes. Now, this is the tricky part. It's relatively simple to implement, but you need to know some ground rules. You need to know what attributes to select, how to change them, how to make them dynamic, so on and so forth, so that you make sure that your workflow is stable and can handle almost everything you throw at it. It doesn't finish processing before it should. Okay, so you need to unclick some of these, click others depending on what you're trying to establish with that particular element. So I'm going to name it. Okay, and then I can just drag it in here, and I can activate it. Oops, misspelled that. Okay, so after, I just need to write some information. Oh, sorry. We can use a writer, select the element again, and give it a value. Of course, you can have it in a data item that loads from external source. Good. Okay, so right address. Good. So now we can continue our workflow. Stage, and let's see it at work. So we have the value there. Now we need to click search. Again, we're gonna have another navigate stage. Click search. We need to spy the element. This time it's a button. Okay. And then just drag it in here. We have some actions that are predefined based on the type of element. Okay. So now we're gonna click search. Great, now we have our first result. The next thing to do is open that window. So again, we need another navigate stage. Open result. Map the element. Okay. So we need to unclick all of these links because they're not going to be relevant for future searches. We just need the element's position on the website. We made sure that we have only one hit by searching using the email address, which is unique. So our element is always going to be the first one in this. Okay, forgot to name it. Never mind, it works just as well. Okay, and then we open the result. Result open. Now we need to read some information from the screen. So using a read stage, so we're gonna call it read, cost center. Then we need to map that particular element. Awesome. Call it cost center. So, reading it, get current value, and then we can generate the data item that's going to house this information. Again, we need another reader for the manager. Map the element. Perfect. Click the links. And then just, forgot to name this one as well. And we need a new data item. I'm gonna call you value from element 3. Okay. Let's see it treat these values. And as you can see, these data items now contain the values on the website. The last thing we need to do is to navigate to that search page again, and we have ourselves an automation workflow. That was it. And I think it's really cool. You can do a lot of things really quickly. And that was Blue Prism. Every tool has its advantages. I'm not going to get into that. I know there's a lot of tools out there. That's my next talking point, actually. I'm going to show you how UiPath does the same thing. Great. OK. So we're going to watch another video. Yes, it's UiPath now. You can see that they basically have a similar approach. The only thing that they add is that you can record your movements, just like you would record a macro. It works and it doesn't. It's a lot better to write your own code than to record something. And you obviously need to go back and redo some of the attributes that were captured during the recording. But it really does a good job. And you're going to see it process some invoices in SAP now.
Now the robot opens the SAP application and logs in using the username and the password, which is encrypted. After logging into SAP, robot searches if the vendor exists by going to the Vendors tab,
So it does some checks previously to make sure that
typing the vendor's name and checking if there's an entry for this vendor in SAP. In this case, the vendor is already registered in the system. So the robot clicks OK and fills in the company code. Then it selects all information and clicks OK. Now the robot goes back twice. It then types FB60, the code for entering incoming invoices in SAP. Now, in entering vendor invoice pane, the robot selects the vendor by its name and starts inputting the data extracted from the PDF. When watching this, you have to remember that this is done in debug slow mode. The actual robot is much faster, depending on the application loading speed. In the background mode, when working with PDFs or Excel applications, the robot does data extraction and processing almost instantly.
OK, so we've seen the code on the left. We've seen it do some actions on the right. Basically, RPA. OK, the third tool that I'm going to showcase today is Automation Anywhere. They went a different route. It looks like regular code. You have some lines of code. You can still drag and drop them from the left side panel and configure them, but they do look like lines of code. So let's see this one in action. OK. So now that you guys have seen these things in action, we can take a look at the bigger picture. So what can we do with RPA? Basically, you can automate any application that you can find in the corporate environment and beyond. If it doesn't talk natively with that particular application, all of these tools have OCR embedded in them. So they can do surface automation, and they can find that particular element just by its picture. You don't need its attributes. And of course, you can handle multiple applications at the same time. I've seen projects where we've had 12 or more applications that were needed in a single workflow. And it's really cool to see all of those 12 applications being opened at the same time and the robot working in them. And of course, it's non-invasive because, hey, it's front-end automation. You don't need to talk to the back-end. So you're not going to have a lot of the security restrictions that you will have when attempting a back-end integration. And of course, it's fast. I've seen projects delivered in less than 1 week. You can have projects that take 1 or 2 months, depending on the process complexity and how mature is your RPA deployment. Like I mentioned before, once you map out all of the actions from a particular application, it's just like a puzzle. You can just plug them in, but first you need to map them. So that's why, at first, it takes a while before you automate your first processes, but then things get easier really quickly. And of course, there are also challenges. You need to make sure that you digitize your inputs. It cannot look at a piece of paper and tell you what is there. You first need to go through an OCR software and digitize it so that the robot can process it. The processes you want to automate need to be stable. It doesn't make sense to automate something that's going to change next week. So you need to do some due diligence before you select your candidates for automation. It has to be rule-based, and it shouldn't have a lot of impact if something goes wrong. At least at first, before you get accustomed to what RPA can and cannot do, what are its possible errors, and so on and so forth. And this is another fun example from practice. A lot of organizations have a lot of restrictions on who can get credentials to a particular application. Imagine asking a what to get credentials. So there are little things that you need to think about before deploying RPA. And you still need support staff and maintenance personnel. The robot will fail if you have significant UI changes, or if application functionality changes somehow, or simply the application is just not available. So somebody needs to take a look at that and contact IT and get it fixed before restarting the robots. Okay, isn't this a nice, clean-looking slide? I'm going to start reading all of that information. No, you don't have to read the slide. The reason I have this up there is that I want to show you guys that it's not a new thing. A lot of industries have adopted it already, and a lot of departments and a lot of processes have already been automated with RPA. It started out with a core set of processes that are common to most industries, but then slowly but surely it branched out into industry-specific processes like meter reading validations, for example. Okay, what was the impact of RPA in Deutsche Bank? This happened in less than 2 years. I think the numbers speak for themselves. We have more than 5,000 transactions being performed per day in 24 different applications by 10 different robots. And if you factor the time it took to get everything set up that's a lot. Okay, it all started in 2015 when the project was initiated. It only took a year to get the first POC up and running. So you do have some growth pains that need to be addressed before you can start implementing RPA. And several automation initiatives later, 100,000 transactions have been processed by robots in just the first 13 processes. So you can see a lot of return on investment. And right now we are growing at a very fast pace. A lot of the legacy applications where RPA is most proficient have already been mapped. So most processes when we start to automate them, we just plug in all of those actions we previously mapped, adapt them, and voila, we have a new process. And in the future, things are just gonna grow. We have agile teams that deliver new process continuously. We are working with OCR software right now to digitize other inputs so that we can find new candidates for automation. And we plan to extend internationally. Okay, I love this picture. It really highlights RPA's potential. As you can see, it all started with orchestrated automation, which is basically scripting, macros, business process modeling, and it was dependent on a single application. It couldn't do multiple applications. So that's why we have RPA now. You can do cross-application automation using complex rules. You basically mimic what a human does on the front end. And we are just at the verge of cognitive robotics, which is really cool. Both UiPath and Blue Prism have integrated APIs from Microsoft Cognitive Services, Google Cloud, IBM Watson, and we can do some really cool things now. We can do complex OCR, natural language processing, really cool stuff. And in the future, we're not going to even program the robots. They're either gonna train themselves or we can train them. We can even give them voice commands like destroy Skynet or protect John Connor, things like that. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed learning about RPA today. And if you have any questions, now is the time.